Hot mic is hot. Good morning. You know why it's a good morning? It's a good morning because I woke up this morning. Hopefully the audio's working. I'm monitoring. It appears to be. So, yeah. Anyway, so this episode is brought to you by Marchintosh because it is March. And this is the time of year that we do all things Macintosh, which is really year-round for me. So, happy Marchintosh, though. I'd also like to point out, this is brought to you, or not brought to you by Hug. I am still trying to get the official recognition for the user group. And this is the original Apple logo for Hug. The Apple HyperCard user group, which of course I can't use because the Apple is trademarked and all that, but till they recognize me or sue me, one or the other, I'm gonna continue to use this. So, yeah. So to assist Trina with staying awake, I do have a new little tiny segment I've added to the thing. So,
oh, where is the beef?
Where's the beef? I don't really have anything to complain about this morning. Like I said, I got up. I've got a cup of coffee. Here's something. We're not going to be able to enjoy real coffee in the coming decades because of climate change and the pressure on the environment that's needed for growing coffee. So I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing. A lot of people that produce coffee aren't treated as well as they should be, perhaps. But what are they going to do when it's gone? And what am I going to do for caffeine? I'm sure somebody's going to come up with some kind of, and this is the tie-in to Where's the Beef, some kind of facsimile, simulation, substitute, artificial, miracle coffee, if you will, like miracle beef. I can't believe it's not coffee. Could be a brand. But anyway. Enjoy your coffee while you can. So, now Trina, you can take a nap. We're going to talk about HyperCard this morning and programming in HyperCard, one of my favorite topics. So I have, that mouse is not going to work, Eric. You're using the wrong mouse. Try the other mouse. Here we go. So let's before we get into the meat of this, sorry, I'm going to overuse that metaphor. Let's see who's in the chat this morning. So we have Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Make sure you join or view, whichever is your pleasure, Dave's stream tomorrow, because he always streams on Sunday, and it's a long stream, and it starts at 11 Eastern Time. And Eric Rangel, good morning, Eric. Us Erics need to stick together. And let's see, who else do we have? Trina's Technobabble. Trina, if you're awake, good morning. Let's see, Trina, Eric, Gut Bomb. I want to shout out to Gut Bomb. Do I have the frickin' thing sitting around here? No, of course it's in a bin. Where is the bin? I'm not going to dig for it. Anyway, there's this fast load thing that he's building. It uses a Raspberry Pi, and it allows you to boot a Commodore 64 into any number of disk images. And it works great. I had a little bit of trouble getting going on it because I was using a series of bad SD cards for it. So unfortunately, we were looking for problems in, the assembly and things like that. And come to find out, it was just 3 bad SD cards, and the 4th one worked. So thank you, Gutbaum, for helping me sort through that. And it's a great little thing. I intend to use it to do some Commodore 64 programming, because that's what I do, programming. So if you care to, if you have a C64, or even if you don't have a C64, you may know someone who does. Please see your local Gutbaum and get yours today. This stream is not endorsed by Gutbaum, but I endorse Gutbaum. So, let's see who else we got in here. Trina's chatty this morning. Big Bad Biologist, Big Bad Bench. Another fine YouTuber. He's probably going to do some not janky stuff at noon today. So make sure you check out his stream. Like and subscribe. Eric's Edge is here. Oh yeah, I'm here. Dave, Trina. Okay, I think we got it covered. If I missed somebody, I'm sorry. But you need to chat more so that I can see you. Oh, and Gutbaum states, I endorse the stream. Eric for president. God, no. Maybe of my own little island nation. Somebody who cares to set me up. So, you're all invited to the hacienda. Let's put it an island, maybe somewhere off of Baja. I don't know I don't know my geography in that area very well. So, oh yes, as Gutbaum points out, it is the Pi 1541. 1541 stands for the disk drive that was available for the Commodore 64. And thing works great. So, arthritis. Let's get to the programming. So, as you all are aware, I am working on an adventure game, and it's mostly a text adventure game. In HyperCard, most adventure games were done as single cards with some, if it was a kid doing it or even an adult, it'd have some cheesy graphics, and it was a click, what do they call those? Click adventure, where you could go through interactive click adventure where you could click on objects and it would take you to different cards, things like that. So, yes, arthritis sucks. So, keep your hands limber and all that. If you've talked to me at all, I represent all the metabolic diseases. So, I don't really like exercise, though. That's one of the... I'm sorry, Where's the Beef segment's over. So, let's get back to the HyperCard thing. So this adventure game, I really wanted to do something that was more in the line of a text adventure or a classic text adventure. And I didn't want to just reuse the Zork engine or something like that. I wanted to just kind of roll my own. And this thing has grown to be a monster. I edit an editor, so you could create your own text adventures, or you could edit the one that's in there. And it's really not that complicated. It's just got a lot of stuff into it. One of the features I wanted to add was sound effects. I also wanted to do background music, but if you're familiar with Blob, which is an excellent game. I really suggest you go out and play it. It's a vertical scroller. Would have been a side scroller probably, but side scrolling in HyperCard is not really a feature the way you implement things like this. It's more of a vertical scroller. Long story short, it's an excellent game. I suck at that kind of game, but even I went out and tried to play it and stuff. So there's several reviews out there. Gruz has a great review of it. I think Ron did a playthrough. So Ron of Ron's Computer Videos. Another excellent channel. Like and subscribe. There's a lot of really great HyperCard activity that's going on out there. This thing is going to... I've originally tried to target an SE30 or an SE or even a Plus to play this game. So it's the size of the stack fits the screen. Unfortunately, the amount of code that's in here is too heavy to really play on a classic Mac. So I'll be releasing it wrapped in a mini VMac emulation so that you can run it on Windows or whatever, the same way Blob did. Excuse me, that's not his name. Bree is his name, or his handle. Blob is the program. The same way that was released. If you try to run it on a classic Mac, it's just going to be dog slow, and you don't want that. So it works fine on this Power Macintosh G3. So if you've got a classic, a vintage Macintosh with a bit more power, I do have an SE30 that I'm going to try it on. I haven't got it yet. KMac Vintage has fixed that board and has given me a rebuilt one, so that I'll be able to get that up and running, and then I'll be able to try it on that and see how it works. So back to the editor. So this editor lets you create your own game, edit, modify the game, wanted sound effects. So I settled on being able to embed text that's it's kind of like a mini markup language for it, where you could say, if you're going to display this text description for this location, also play this sound. And you can add these to the dialogue for characters, so if they're screaming in pain, you can add a scream, you can do things like that. They all have to be IF files. AIFF I think is the full extension for it. Yeah, so you could just type it in here with the square brackets and you'd be fine. All the sound files have to be in a media directory underneath the stack, so you don't have to worry about paths and all that. You just drop them in there and then you can add them. The challenge here is that you've got to type in this name correctly. It's not that difficult, but I make mistakes doing that. So what I did was I thought I really ought to have a way you could just insert these in. And honestly, I would like to do something where you can't go in and mess around with the text on this when you add them in, but that's overkill. So what I did was I added a menu option. So let me get the menu working here. This is the programming menu for HyperCard. There's a game menu that has its own settings, and I use Command-Shift-D to switch between the programming menu and the application menu. Makes it easier for me to work on it. So we've got insert sound effect, remove sound effect, insert source reference, and remove source reference. There's another markup you can put in here that identifies the source of the dialogue or the target of the dialogue so that you can have it automatically put in the character's name, that kind of thing. So you place your cursor somewhere in the field. Let's put it between the sentences here. And you say insert sound effect, pops up a menu, asks you where the sound effects are. It's in the media library. And I've got a long list of sound effects. The other problem I'm going to run into is this game no longer fits on a single floppy disk. So it's going to end up being, it'll be delivered online, but I'm also going to make a box set with discs and everything. So price to be set later. Let's see. So let's say vocal eerie moan. Sorry. Open it, and it just drops it in the location that you put the text. If you remove a sound effect, it makes a list of all the sound effects that are in there. You just select it and say remove, and it takes it out. I'm gonna look. I'm not sure if I coded it to do this. Another user scenario. So you insert a sound effect. So let's do arc reverse pulse. And let's add it again. So now we've got two instances. If I go to remove sound effect, okay, so a couple of ways of looking at this. How does it know which one's which? It put them in the list. It really doesn't know what the position is or anything. If it just takes I believe it just removes the first one that you pick. So if we remove it, nope, it got rid of all instances of it. So what I really should do is change the code a little bit so that that list is unique. And then maybe add a note on the dialog that says, you know, it'll remove all instances of it. Or I could change the code to only remove the first one it finds. Or I could really add something to the description in the drop down that says which one you're talking about, but I think that's getting to be overkill. You're not really going to add multiple sound effects probably in this. Certainly not the same one over and over again, so it's a minor thing. I just have to document it so that people know what to expect. Anyway, so the editor allows you to do, just to give you a quick thing, there's a file description, your player, and the stats for the player. There is help that's built into it, so if you say help attack, it displays this. You have the different locations that you can visit with directions. You can go north, south, east, and west. You have non-playing characters that have dialogue, and there's if you don't click random dialogue, it does the dialogue in the order that it's written in here. It's not an interactive dialogue necessarily. You just talk to the NPC. Later in an enhancement, I plan on doing your traditional game dialogue where they say something and you can pick your response, that kind of thing. So, but again, it's already heavy enough of a program. So, I'm going to look at some of the comments here because I haven't been paying attention. How does it perform in NSC30? I don't know yet. I can tell you when I tried it on my SE with 4 megs of RAM, it was playable in the sense that it worked, but nobody would play it. It's too slow. Oh, you have an SE with a blue SCSI. Yeah, Eric, great. I can I'll package it up and send it to you so that you can try it. I do ask that you not share too much about the details in it because I want it to be a bit of a surprise. And Eric uses AIF files in a Java project years ago. Cool. And 1-Bit Fever Dreams. When I bring a sound clip recorded in a PC to a classic Mac, I use Brian's sound tool on the vintage Mac to make it Mac usable. That's great. What I've been doing is I found some public domain sound effects that I was able to use, and they were AIFF files to begin with, so I didn't have to go through that. Let's see what else we got. I hope you're ready for more D files today, Garth. You fixed the CD thing. Ooh. Yeah, it would be good to have some other people test. Programmers are notoriously bad testers, especially of their own code. And I have a preconceived notion about how it works, obviously, because I wrote it. And it would be good to have somebody that's not me do some testing on it if they're willing to do that. Yeah, 1Bit's got a SE30. You know, if I end up having too many testers, then nobody's going to want to buy it. I'm kidding. It's going to be available for free online electronically. I'm just doing a box set because I'm interested in doing it. I think it'd be a cool addition to put on a shelf. My eldest daughter was going to be a graphics designer, so she's going to help design the manual for it, and we're going to do it kind of like the traditional D&D style of book kind of a thing. All right, back to the code here. So you can see, sorry, more coffee. This episode's brought to you by caffeine. Every episode at 9 a.m. is brought to you by caffeine. It is going to, the game will be under the MIT license, so you can't pirate it because it's free. There is one caveat. I am going to have some custom sound bites that will be added by somebody I'm not going to mention when they're able to do it for the dialogue, so there'll be character voices, and that individual has the right of first refusal. So if this were to be commercialized in any way, they have the right to say mine. So Garth, you can use the code and everything, but you're not going to be able to use the character sound unless you get permission. You can wear your pirate hat. Squawkers can be the pirate. So, or do you sit on Squawker's shoulder? How does that work? Anyway, back to the code. So we're already a half hour in. All right, so the problem here is that if I just simply added the menu thing to add something into this text box, as soon as you click off of it to go to the menu to do something, it loses track of where you're at inside the box. So I had to do some code so it would preserve where it's at, insert the code where it's at, and then return the cursor to that place. It's not quite 100% working, but it works well enough. So let's take a peek at the code. It's really not that complicated. It was complicated to figure out because I haven't had to deal with this before, but you can in HyperCard you can edit the menus. So I have a menu entry that does an insert sound. Typically when you're doing things like this, you use do as a prefix on the event. Yeah, SE30s are kind of the creme de la creme. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too much. Of the classic 9-inch screen Mac. I've always wanted one. I had one 20 years ago, and it had a checkerboard pattern. It booted a couple of times and then it checkerboard on me, and it was before I knew anything about them, so I threw it away. Sad face. Anyway, so do insert sound. Inserts a sound effect reference into the text at the cursor location. So first thing it does is it sees whether or not you have a field selected, because if you don't have a field selected, then what are you inserting text into? And it does that by seeing if the selected field property is not empty. Empty is a keyword that essentially means empty string. So if I put double quotes with nothing in between, it'd be equivalent. So you put the selected field into, because I save it to a variable, so I've got it to mess with. I look for the last word of the field and put it in the field number. So the field is a string that describes the selected field, and what I need is which field number it is. This makes it generic. This code is placed into the stack, not the field object. Put word to of the selected chunk. Selected chunk is another thing that tells you there are chunk expressions for text. So you can say the third word of whatever. Selected chunk, the second word of it, tells you where the cursor is. And then the selected location, tells you the location, the mouse location on the screen for it. So that's the loc. So now we got that basic information. We look to see if the insertion point is not empty. If you don't have the cursor somewhere in the field, then you can't place it. And we put the value of the selected text in the text, or the selected field. So that's the text of the entire field. And we look to see if we're inserting a sound effect or a reference, or into a reference. So in other words, if I were on this screen, and let's go to the location. If I was trying to insert something in the middle of another reference, that would screw it up. So I check to see if you're actually in there. And I've got a function that looks for the square brackets and says, oh, are you between two square brackets? So I did try to think of some of the things that, you know, someone might do. So anyway, so it looks to see if you're nested in, or in a nested reference. And it says you can't insert a reference inside another reference. Exits the function or routine. Ask the user to select a sound file. So you're not in the middle of something. So answer is the built-in function that will, if you give it the file parameter, will go select a file. And here I say it has to be a type AIFF. So you don't want to pick other file types. Get the result. The result is a kind of a key variable that HyperCard has. So the answer routine puts the result in the result. You check to see if the result code is empty. Someone could have canceled or done something like that, so you don't want to do something if they cancel. It is another internal variable that's used by HyperCard. So they were trying to do things that were kind of English-like in the language. It's a double-edged sword. It does make it easier to guess at what you should do for a statement, but it can also make it hard to remember exactly how you're supposed to put things. Like, should this be called the it because result is called the result? Can I use result without the? Sometimes it's a little weird. So I'm setting the item delimiter to a colon because file names in not in HyperCard, in the Macintosh Classic environment are colon separated. So keep your colon separated. Yeah. Get the last item. That's just the file name. And remember, every media resource is in that media subdirectory, so I've hard-coded it to always use that. If you try to pick a sound effect file from some other subdirectory, it's not going to work. It's a limitation I wanted to do to keep it simple. The last item of the file name, okay. Now I set the item delimiter to a comma, and I put comma's the default item delimiter for lists. So then I put square brackets, the file name, before character, the insertion point of the text. If word one of the field is card, when you're referring to things by the field number, you can have card fields and background fields. So what this does is figures out if you need to put the text into a card field or a background field. It's a little bit awkward, but if you tried to put it into just the general field reference, it gets confused. So this is something that I'm not really keen on in HyperCard. The fact that you've got to do this kind of manipulation, but it is what it is. Okay, here's the trick. Click at the location. This sets the insertion point. What it's supposed to is back at the same location where you just inserted that text. And then remove sound does a similar thing. It creates a list, and this is an external command that allows you to do. You could code all this using just a hidden text field and a bunch of stuff, but it's easier to use an external command to do this that will do that pop-up list and let you select from it. So what I do is I go through the code and I look for all the places where I have one of these references with the square brackets and populate a list with them. And if you've got any references, then it does this show list, which is available in the HyperCard home stack. So it's one that Apple created. Yeah, hidden codes. There's a lot of programming techniques you can use in HyperCard where you use hidden fields. A lot of times they're used to maintain state. So when I first started writing this game, I maintained state between runs of the game by using text fields, because it retains that information. And you start the game up, it can start back where it was at. The problem you run into is there's a 30,000 character limit for text fields, and I was way blowing past that in some things. So I had used global variables, which means that I had to have a save file that I parse and read when you start the game up. So that'll be another code segment where I'll discuss how the weird database I created, text-based database I created for the game. Not optimal. It's like the squirreliest part of the code in this thing. I'd like to replace it, but I'm too far into it now. Anyway, so you do this thing where the user selects it. If they don't select anything, or if there aren't any sound effects, it tells you. That's it. So the code proved to be not too complicated. It just required figuring out, knowing what the selected field is, figuring out the selected chunk to get the insertion point, and the selected location to get the click point, and being able to restore those. So that's it. That's the code. Trina, you can wake up now. So usually I go for about an hour. What else can we discuss? So I don't do just sound effects. Like I said, I also do dialogue, and it's a similar thing here. Let's see. So, rodents of unusual size. Yeah, Trina's asleep. Somebody... Oh, you're still awake. Trina. Do I need to serenade you with more code? Anyway. So here's some sound effects for the rodent of unusual size. It's got a snarl and a scream. Let's see if I can find some other ones. Here's an object. So it's a strength potion. And if you drink it, or use it, really, it does a bottle uncork and a guzzle drink. Oh, and here's these references I was talking about. So source would be whoever is using it. And source in this case is the player. So it takes the name of the player and it inserts it in the text. If we looked at a weapon, gotta have a sword. So it does this knife shing noise when you unsheath the sword. And oh, here's target. So for the NPC, this is how they respond if you use the object on them. So it does a head axe sound, and it says player source strikes at the target. The target would be whomever the NPC is. So it could be guard. And then you've got health, strength, stamina, and magic, and the inventory for the player. Their disposition. Are they an enemy, a rival, an acquaintance, a friend, or an ally? I think I've got a few too many there. I was going to do a trading system, and that got to be too unwieldy. So you really just... let's look at the merchant. So if you look at the merchant, they're an acquaintance, which means you can buy from them. If they were a friend... they would an ally will just give you the thing that you want. So if you try to buy something, they just give it to you. A friend, I think, will do it for whatever price you offer. I can't remember what I did in the code, but anyway, so the merchant, it describes who they are. They have a dialogue, one of the standard ones that I put in here. So I've got references to other games and things. Their Masterworks All, You Can't Go Wrong, came from my daughter. But they have items that are in their inventory. They all have, a quantity. So this was another interesting tool that I had to build because there's no multi-column list box inside HyperCard. And I made it way too complicated, and then got some help from somebody who pointed out that there's a multi-list card in the home stack. So yeah, this doesn't use the Ferengi rules of acquisition. Anyway, so that's the basics of the game. That you've got objects that you can manipulate and use. Might cost you strength if you use it, or add strength to you, kind of a thing. You can make objects if you have the right ingredients. So let's see. Well, strength potion, we'll just use that. So it's consumable. It's a food. It gives you 4 strength. It has a trading value of 2, so 2 gold pieces. It costs you 1 in magic to make it. And to need to make, you have to have the rubber duck I'm not going to explain the rubber duck. You'll have to figure it out. A wand. So you have to have those things to be able to make it. Yeah. Does anybody want me to like play the intro level of the game? Eric's seen some stacks on the Internet Archive where they tried to do MIDI coding, but I think the tech used is hard to resurrect. Yeah. Trina wants to see the game. Okay, I'll show you a preview. It's not done yet. I've still got other things to do in it, but let's make sure you can hear. Oh yeah. Let's close this. Quit. So the code's rather dense for this. This is the adventure game stack. I blew past using all of the code space available in cards and in this stack. I know that you can bury code in things like other objects, but I didn't want to have to call it. And I tried using just adding cards with custom code, and it got to be unwieldy. HyperCard has a way that you can import stack code, so I've separated it into four, if you will, colostomy bag code holders that hang off of the side of Adventure. So all of this has to go with the game when you install it. It's one of the reasons why it takes too much space. So anyway, so let's go run Adventure. So it comes up with this long intro. In the editor, this was on that file. It's got a description. So it puts that description in here when you start a new game. You can start a new game here. So you should be able to hear the background music or sound. Garth, I'm not going to repeat what I said. If anyone read the book by Tracy Kidder titled Soul of a New Machine, if you haven't and you're into that kind of thing, it's the anecdotal history of the Control Data Corporation's one of their computers, and they discuss all the engineering and not the software development. It's really just about the hardware. All the nonsense, including the marketing BS they had to go through to create that system. It's a great book. I read it 30 years ago, and one of the quotes from an engineer was some new technology came out, and the higher ups wanted to use it before it was viable or even available, and they wanted to make compromises on the architecture of the machine that they were doing. And one of the engineers responded to the request with, "I'm not going to hang a colostomy bag off the side of this thing." So Trina wasn't born 30 years ago. Sure. There is classic literature for engineering and computer science that's out there. So I highly recommend that book. I've got it somewhere around here. I'd have to dig it out. Anyway, so it displays this first thing, and then it does your location. And you start out in the forest glade. Bill Hurd's book, Back into the Storm, also has great stories about engineering. Yeah, I should read that. You can also go to folklore.org, I think, which has a bunch of stories about Apple. Excuse me. These headphones bother me. Anyway, there's stories and stuff about Apple and some of the early stuff. That's kind of interesting. There's a book based on it too, I think. I believe Ron from Ron's Computer Videos read a few segments as live streams, so you might be interested in checking that out. Okay, so you're at this location. So you are in a forest glade. The sun is bright and a bit hot. You smell wildflowers. Nobody, so that's your name. You see a lamp, a sword, 3 grenade. I haven't done code to do pluralization or anything. I'm not going to bother with this version. 3 lembas, a flower, a flask, 10 gold. Nobody. You see an old wizard. Okay, so it's a classic. Now, my name is Nobody. Anybody get the reference? Does anyone know what spaghetti westerns are? Please tell me somebody knows that movie and that series. It's awesome if you haven't seen it. Anyway, so my name is Nobody. You can use the commands feature in here, and it builds dynamically based on where you're at in the situation. You can get the flask. Eric, what tool do you use for project management? The tool that I use for project management for my personal projects is called Shove Everything Each Day into a Folder. I'll show you guys next time the history of the development of this game. I've been working on it for a year. Code management is not very easy with HyperCard because it's an integrated environment. There are tools for exporting your scripts and exporting the description for building cards. So you could script the entire stack. But I use folders, so it's old school. JCS has a tool for text-based programming that is like not a GitHub, it's more of a, I guess it's like GitHub. But what does he call it? I don't remember the name. Anyway, it's a code management tool that works in a classic Mac, so if you're interested in that kind of thing, it looks like a neat little tool. I'm not doing C or Pascal programming yet, so it doesn't hold any use for me at this point. Anyway, so you can do various things. So one of the things I can do is I could get gold. This one where it says call me, this is what I was going to do. It's got an ellipsis after it. So if I do that command, you need to you need to replace the ellipsis with something, because this command requires you to modify it. So Ishmael. Well met, Ishmael. So now if I look, it says that I'm in and it put Ishmael into instead of Nobody. If you go to the editor, it'll still say Nobody there because that's the base file for the game. It's not this. So you can't really, you can save this, and it does it automatically. It has a save file. In fact, you can see it right here, adventure save. So it'll remember that you called yourself Ishmael. And so let's take gold. Now if I take the gold, I picked up 10 gold. Take all. So I'm greedy. I'm taking all. And the old wizard's talking to me already. So they can initiate actions as well. If you run into an adversary, they might attack you. You use Azure DevOps for task management. So do I at work. We use it for, I manage business analysts. I'm no longer managing developers. somebody decided I needed to suffer and put me managing the business analyst. I used to work I work for state government, and I used to work private industry, and when you work for a consulting company, you were all things. You're the developer, you're the database administrator and designer, you are the requirements capture expert, so you're the business analyst. You write all the documentation. I've done training where I've had to train end users, and I wrote the content for the training. So you end up doing everything if you work for smaller consulting agencies. When I got to state government, they are very heavily compartmentalized. They have separation of duties. So yes, I'm a cat herder. I started there contracting as an architect, which means you don't actually do any work. You tell other people how to build things. Then I hired in as a manager, and my first job was managing the architect team. So you could imagine it was a little challenging at first to manage people you worked with. But I got through it. Then I was asked to form a team to do a major project for our customer, and had to rape and pillage the rest of the department to grab people to do that team. Then I got punished for doing that because after a couple of years they asked me to manage the business analyst group. So I went from managing people I had hand selected to work on a project to managing everybody I didn't select. So different challenge. And managing people is totally different than coding. Go figure, right? But it's a new challenge for me. It's something interesting to do. Frankly, I got tired of keeping up with the new tech. So I'd rather play with old tech like this. So code management, where I work, is done in Azure DevOps. Microsoft is heavily focused on developers, which is great unless you're not a developer. They offer almost nothing for business analysts or the rest of the process. Oh, you mean for programming projects? Back in the day, I used Visual SourceSafe. I know, laugh. Before that, I used, oh God, I can't even remember the 4-letter acronym for the code management solution we used to use. Yeah, having to keep up with the new tech is, it's interesting and everything, but, I'm not as agile, to use a phrase. I'm not as agile as I used to be. And frankly, I'm just not interested anymore. People are I went from hardware to software to wetware, and people are wetware. And they're soggy and squishy and difficult to bend to your will. It's a totally different kind of problem to solve. VSS sucks, but at least it was better than Perforce. Or is it Perfus? Anyway, it sucked. I used TFS for a long time. VSS would corrupt occasionally, but if you kept it backed up, you didn't have to worry about it. So you had to have a backup to your backup. But I used, not VBA, Visual Script, or what was it, Windows scripting, and automated most of the, it would export all of the objects from the database I was working in. So it would store automatically, daily, all of the stored procedure changes or anything, which was handy because if you screwed something up, you always had a backup then, and a backup to that backup. Yeah, but it wasn't very performant. Perforce. It kind of, in other words, they force you to perform. Per Fortran for Windows. Anyway, I'm really getting into a side channel here about development, but traditionally I don't like environments like Visual Basic, the original, where you had binary encoded source code and the forms and things, and it was easy to lose it because it would corrupt. HyperCard is a very similar environment. You can export scripting for everything, and I need to do that so that I can back up, and perhaps I could use JCS's tool for backing up scripts and things like that. But I'm going to have to write a HyperCard stack that generates all of the stuff and then checks it in and out. And I just haven't gotten there yet. So I use folders to keep track of everything. Okay, so back to the game. We wake up, Trina. Oh, you're still awake. Good. So anyway, I picked up all the stuff. If I look at my inventory, I've got a whole bunch of stuff. It's got value. I can use the lamp. More sound effects. Yeah, I'm going to be very busy in my retirement until I can't function any longer. So it's got sound effects and it tosses it up. The old wizard's still trying to talk to me, so let's talk to... Now, when I first wrote this, you had to type out the entire name. Now you can use aliases. So I can just say Wiz. If it's part of the name, it'll do it. Hail, strange traveler. I sense some magic about you. Are you a kindred spirit in the arcane arts? So, the dialogue is kind of cheesy. Look at wizard. So you can look at him. Tells you his health, his stats. I probably don't want to attack this dude because he's got really good stats. He's an old wizard, so he's got very little magic left, I guess. It says, I'm afraid I don't have much to give, so maybe he's got some stuff. And he appears to be an ally, which means I should be able to get some things for free from him. So, get from Wiz. And he says, oh, I've got a sword and some gold. So, take sword from wizard. You accept one sword for free. Oh, let's get his gold too. Now if I say take gold from wizard, it's just going to take one. So take 2 gold. What happens if we try to do 10 gold from Wiz? You take 10 gold from Wiz. Okay, how much gold did we have? I wonder if this is a bug. We had 10. $21. Okay. I just invented a way to... I'm an alchemist and I can make gold out of nothing. So, this is why I need testers. I have never tried to take more than what somebody had. So, obviously, I've got a bug. That's not good. Oh, and it tells you what you're using. And again, if you look, you get the thing. So I'm not going to go any further into the game. It is 10 o'clock. It's 10:03 actually, so I've made up for being late. I apologize for being late. I was playing around with creating the where's the beef thing and lost track of time. I am going to be busy this evening, so I'm not going to be around. I also am going to be busy tomorrow doing stuff, so I am also not going to be around, unfortunately for Dave's live stream. Maybe I'll pop in if I have time. And what else can I cover? So let's do the outro part here. I have a couple of socials I'm on. Of course, Eric's Edge videos at YouTube. And my coffee's cold. I have a coffee. So if you want to throw me a few dollars or something to support my shenanigans, feel free to do so. No obligation. I also am on Mastodon at bitbang.social. So Eric's Edge at bitbang.social. I'm on Discord. So if you're in the Macintosh Friends group, you already know I'm there. Gut Bomb will be streaming at 2 p.m. today, so please join him for that. Big Bad Biologist will be streaming at noon, I'm sure. Dave from Dave's Vintage Apple Tech will be streaming tomorrow. Ambrosia usually streams on Saturday evenings too. I have no idea if she's going to be doing that. So, what else? Oh, I also have along with the Ko-fi, I also have a Patreon. So if you guys care to contribute, you can do as little as $1 a month. Again, absolutely no obligation. It's really just to help me do stuff. Recently I refurbished an LC2. I know they're not much of a machine, but it's cute. And thanks to a generous donation from Dave's Vintage Apple Tech, I was able to recap the power supply and the logic board, and everything came out great. So I dabble in hardware. Mostly I do programming, and the adventure game will be available at VCF Midwest, so I'll be there. Hopefully I'll have a table. If not, I'll be carrying a backpack full of wares. I also got a vintage horde from somebody really cheap, and I'm going to fix up a bunch of machines, and hopefully I can sell them at VCF Midwest too. So if you're going to be going to VCF Midwest, please look me up. And yeah, that's it for today. So thank you for joining, all you beautiful people. Like and subscribe if you care to. Hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm we all live under. And I will see you the next time. So, where is the button? I set this up to make it easy for me to find things. I've got this. I've got this board that's got buttons on it and everything, and I still have to search for the outro. Here it is. Bye.
Crap! It chimed! Did you hear that? It chimed!